Hello and welcome to the Phoenix LMS walkthrough. In this session, I will show you how to set up a blended learning program. Let's use a sales induction as an example. The course will be mostly e-learning, but I also want to run live virtual classroom sessions once a month. For the e-learning portion, I want to have a lesson followed by a downloadable employee guide, and we'll finish off with an assessment. I want the learner to be able to download a certificate that automatically generates on completion of the course. Being a sales induction, I want to link this course to all employees in my sales department, present and future. To do this, we will do a bulk registration and then create an auto-enrollment rule. Finally, I'm going to create and automate a usage report that will email me on a regular basis, automatically. In terms of pre-work, I have created an image for the course logo, my employee handbook is written and saved as a PDF, and my e-learning course has been published to SCORM 2004. So, without further ado, let's head over to Phoenix and get this show on the road. Alright, here at Phoenix LMS, what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in as a super administrator. A super admin can see and do everything within the system. Here we are on the front end, but what I want to do is head over to the admin area where all the magic happens, and I do so by clicking on this little gear icon. What I want to do is I want to add a course, so I'm going to go to e-learning, courses, and courses. Here we'll see a list of our current categories, which house our off-the-shelf courses, which come pre-installed with all Phoenix systems. But what I want to do is I want to create a new category for my sales induction. I'm going to call that onboarding. We can see our new category has been created. I'll click on that category. We can see that there is obviously no courses currently within that category, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a new one. I'm going to call this my sales induction. I'm going to give it a code. I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to put a brief description for the learners to see in the front end. We're going to scroll down. We're going to have a look in terms of course subscription. What is our enrollment policy going to be? Do we want learners to be able to browse in the catalog for these courses and register themselves? Would you like them to be able to register themselves based on an approval of an administrator? Or do we want that they can only do this course if an administrator places them on this course? Well, this is not an elective course. I want every single person in my sales department to do this course. So I'm going to say only admin. I'm going to say that subscriptions are closed. That means that learners are not able to register themselves onto courses. They will be automatically registered on this course and they'll have to complete it. In terms of the time options, I don't have a specific beginning and end date. Because this is mostly an e-learning course, I want this course to run continuously so that whenever new people join the sales team, they will be able to start their learning straight away. So I'm going to leave all of this out, which means that the course will run forever and ever. And those are the basic options that I'm going to need. So I'm going to click Save Changes. One thing I have forgotten to do is I've forgotten to add my course logo, which is a nice picture that the learners will be able to see when they log in. So I'm just going to go back into my editing options here, go to Document, Upload, and I'm going to search for my course logo. And here's my course logo here. Import, Save Changes. Fantastic. So here we can see we have a course shell, which is literally a course name, the type of course that it is. And while we're here, we can also link a certificate. Now, when we set up Phoenix Learner Management System, what we will do is we will digitize your certificate templates into the system for you. So when you want to link it to a course, you simply select the template that you want and the rules for releasing that template. So if I click here, I'm going to say my certificate of completion, and it's only for users that have completed the course. It's not a certificate of attendance. I want learners to actually pass the assessment in order to get their certificate. I'll click Save Changes. And we can now see here that there is a certificate linked. As we progress through the course, we will also be able to have a look at the certificates that have been released by clicking on this little icon here. The first icon we have over here with the little people is where we register learners to the course. But we're not ready to do that yet because we still need to add the meat to our course. And we do that in the front end of the system. So what I'm going to do is click on this LMS tab here. That takes me back to the front end of the system. And because I'm the super administrator of the system, you can see I have a lot of courses registered to me. So what I could do is I could browse via my categories for the onboarding course, or I can simply click on the search button here and type induction, and here we have our sales induction. What I'm going to do is click enter, which will take me into the course interface, and we can see it's pretty bare at the moment. So currently I have one sort of tab here available in my learner area, which is where my course material will sit. And obviously we have no course material. However, being a blended course, I want to create a couple of different tabs. So I want to have a tab for my course material, which I want to call My ELearning. Then I want to have a sales manager host a live virtual session once a month. So I want to have a little area here called My Live Learning, and we're going to preset all of the dates for the next month, for the next 2 months, for these sessions. I also want to have an in-course forum, which is going to be an area that learners at any point in time can create discussions, can join discussions, they can ask questions, they can assist each other, and of course any facilitators or subject matter experts who want to participate in the course are more than welcome to discuss and assist learners. And lastly, I want to have a report card where learners can have a look at their results. So, because I am a facilitator or an administrator on this course, I have access to the facilitator area. Learners don't have access to this. And the first thing we need to do is manage our menu. So here we can see the learner area and the facilitator area. If I select the learner area, because that's the area that we want to customize, we can see I've got my course material tab that's already sitting there. And we wanted to call it My ELearning, so I'm going to edit that. So I'm going to choose the little edit icon here, and I'm going to call it My ELearning. And over here we can see the rights of who is allowed to do what for this particular tab. So everybody on the system is allowed to view this tab. However, only administrators, instructors, and mentors are allowed to add learners or interact with this learning objects. Save changes. Right, the next thing we wanted to add is we wanted to add a virtual classroom. So we can have a look at all of the additional modules that we're able to add in terms of functionality. There's lots and lots of options. But for specifically, in this instance, we're looking for a video conference. So I'm going to assign video conference tab, and we said we were going to call it My Live Learning. In terms of the rules here, we can see we've got a couple more options. So I've got want my administrators, my instructors, and my mentors to be able to not only view but also create live learning sessions. But my learners or my students are only allowed to view sessions that have already been created. They can't create their own. Done. Next up, we wanted to have a course forum, which I suppose let's call it the coffee shop. So we're going to assign a forum tab to this, and we're going to call it the coffee shop. In terms of functionalities here, we want the administrators, the instructors and the mentors to be able to view, to be able to reply, to be able to upload files, to be able to add a new forum, to edit the forum, to delete a forum, and to moderate the forum. Whereas the learners, we want the learners to be able to view, we want them to be able to reply, we want them to be able to upload documents if they need to. Let's have a look what this one was again. We want them to be able to, no, we don't want them to add new forums, they can only add discussions. Import. And lastly, we said we wanted to have a report card. My report. And the only thing you can do with a report card is view it, so we're just going to say everybody can view it. Excellent. So here we have our new functionality for this course. We have My Learning, where our e-learning will sit, My e-learning. We've got My Live Learning, where our virtual classrooms will sit. We've got the coffee shop, and we've got My Reports. So if we now go to the learner area, we can see we have all of these extra tabs sitting here. So let's first go to My Live Learning and set up our VC sessions. We can set these up if we know the dates up front so that the learners are able to see at any point in time when the live sessions will be taking place, exactly what time, so that they can make a note to join those sessions. And it's very simple. We have no rooms currently. We're simply going to create a room. We're going to give it a name. We're going to select a date. So let's say we want to have it on Friday the 11th. We're going to set the starting hour, so let's say it starts at 9 o'clock in the morning, and this live session will run for 2 hours, and I don't really want to have a limit on how many learners can access. They do have to be registered to this particular course shell in order to access, so whoever has access to this course shell will be able to take part in this session. Create. Excellent. So here we can see we've got our first monthly live learning session held on the 11th for 2 hours. If we have a look at some of the functionalities inside of the learning classroom. All right. Okay, so here we can have a look and we can see that we have a document that's preloaded here. As a facilitator, I have the ability to start a poll. I can upload another document or a presentation. If I want to share a video, say for example a YouTube video with my learners, I can simply add the URL here and it will display for the learners. If I want to do talking head, I can share my camera. If I want to share my screen, I can share my screen. I can also do annotations to whatever is on screen. If I want to add shapes, text, if I want to draw, or if I want to move around, I can do so. In the middle here we have a public chat where learners and facilitators are able to talk to each other, and typically, because this would be run as a lecture style, because I'm the facilitator, I would want to mute all learners except for the presenter. However, if anyone has a question, what they can do is they can choose themselves from the list and they can select a status, such as raised hands, for example, if I'm confused, or if you're we also have a I'm confused, if I'm very confused, a happy, a round of applause, a thumbs up or a thumbs down. What would happen here is if I'm confused or I have a question, I can raise my hand. The facilitator will then get a little notification that someone's raised their hand, see the icon here, and they can then select to give the microphone over to that learner so that they can ask their question. Alternatively, the learner can type in the public chat and all questions can be answered at the end of the session. Alright, back inside of the LMS, we also need to set up our coffee shop. So I'm going to choose the coffee shop. We can see there's no forums here, but because I'm a facilitator, I have the ability to add a forum. And we're going to call it the coffee shop. We can add a bit of a description here. This works off a WYSIWYG interface, meaning what you see is what you get. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a picture. Just going to add a picture, which I've already got a nice picture of a cup of coffee, which I'm going to import into my system and save or insert. Fantastic. So here we have our coffee shop, and learners are able to then enter the coffee shop, and they can start their first discussion. If I wanted to create a couple of discussion topics up front, I could do so right here. Alright, there's nothing more we can do on this page. My report will show any assessments that we create. We haven't created any yet, and in terms of my learning, we haven't added any learning objects as of yet. So we're going to go back to the facilitator area, and the next option here is learning object management. This is where we add what we call learning objects or e-learning sections. Alright, so under the course document section, which we've renamed My eLearning, we can add a learning object. The types of learning objects we can add is a frequently asked questions section, a glossary, an HTML page, or we can embed a video from somewhere. We can upload any file, a PDF, a PowerPoint presentation, Excel spreadsheet. We can curate links from external sites. These could be interesting articles for learners. If we're doing compliance training, it may be links to government websites to view specific acts, for example. We can create an anonymous survey. We can import e-learning courses that we've created using e-learning tools, and we can also create assessments. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import an e-learning course that I have created. So I'm going to select SCORM. I'm going to select my e-learning file, which is my SCORM zip here. And we're going to excellent. Alright, so our e-learning course has been imported. The next thing I want to do is I want to have a take-home manual, which would be a learner guide or a employee handbook, in this case for a sales induction. And that's just a PDF that once the learners have completed the e-learning portion, they can download the guide to their laptop and they can view it whenever they want to. So I'm going to create a new learning object. It's going to be a file. I'm going to give my file a name. And I'm going to select the file, which I have saved here, Employee Handbook. Insert. Excellent. So far we can see we have our e-learning course, we have our employee handbook. What we're going to do is we're going to finish off with an assessment. So, new learning object. I'm going to choose a test. I'm going to give my test a name. I can add a description or a welcome note if I like. I just want the learner to see the rules of the assessment. I'll leave that out. And now we're going to edit the final assessment. We're going to start adding some questions. Generally what I do is I add my questions, then I set my assessment rules, my time options, and then I put what the passing score is. We have a couple of different question types: single choice, multiple choice, extended text, text entry, inline choice, hot text, upload file, association, and so on. All of which will be tracked automatically on completion of the assessment, with the exception of text entry and upload file, which are designed for essay type questions. If you decide to use these, then you would need to have a moderator or an assessor log into the Gradebook, which is associated over here, so that they can download or read those answers and assign the score manually. We're going to keep this one simple, so let's have one single choice and one multiple choice question. Alright, so single choice. Again, this works off a WYSIWYG interface, meaning what you see is what you get. So it's easy to add video if you want to add images, if the question is related to an image, edit your text, so on and so forth. So I'm just going to make this a true or false, and we're going to say the answer is true. Maybe make my text a little bit bigger. And here we have an area where we can input our responses. If we need more responses, we can simply click the add one more answer. If we've accidentally added one too many, we can remove the last answer. This is true false, so we really only have two options. It's true and it's false. Which one of these is correct? Well, we said true is correct, and I can immediately add my score. If I want to be particularly nasty, I can actually minus score if you get this incorrect. Save changes. Alright, let's add a multiple choice and then we'll do our settings. So we're going to add multiple choice. We're going to say the answers are a Right, here we're going to need 3 responses, so I'm going to need to add one. So we're just going to add one more response. And we're going to say A, which we did say was one of the correct options. So right now I'll just tick that as correct, and I'll give 25 points. We've got B, which was incorrect, so I'll leave that out. And we've got C, which was correct and is also worth 25 points. Save changes. Alright, I've got all of the questions that I want to capture within the system. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my test options. And test options are the rules for this particular assessment. So how do I want the questions to appear to the learner? Do I want them to be on one page, one after the other, or one question per page? In terms of how the order in which they appear to the learner, do you want them arranged in the same sequence you captured them? Do you want to have all questions, but you want them to be randomized? Or if we want to capture, let's say for example, we've captured 100 questions now, and we randomly want to pull 20 questions out of that pool, every learner will then get a different 20 questions out of the pool available. We can also create categories as we're creating assessments so that we can choose random amounts of questions from certain categories as well. In terms of the answer sequence, we can also have those appear as you captured them, or we could randomize those as well. Do you want the learners to see the rules of the assessment before? Absolutely. Do you want them to be able to edit their answers or go back and change their answers once they've submitted it? Yes. Well, once they've submitted the question, not the assessment. Yes or no? Do you want them to be able to do it in one or more sitting? Meaning we have an option here. Once you start the assessment, you have to complete it in a single sitting. Or alternatively, in a high pressure environment, say like a call center, you may want your learners to be able to save their assessment and come back to it later. So let's say you started an assessment, there's now an emergency and your manager calls you, you want to be able to save the assessment, go and sort out the customer, come back and continue from where you left off. You have the choice up front to set that up. I'm going to say no because I want this to be completed in a single sitting. Maximum number of attempts at the assessment, let's say 3, and if we want to do test suspension, we can organize that as well. So if we want the learner after X amount of failed attempts, do you want them to be logged out of the system for a certain amount of time, and must they complete all learning objects again before they can attempt the assessment? Is this a formative or summative assessment? Do you want the learner to get a report afterwards, and do you want that report to be detailed? So if it's summative, we kind of just want to say, yes, you've passed, here's your score. If we wanted a formative assessment, we may want to give a detailed report to show people where they went wrong. Save changes. Let's do some time management options. Do we want it to be test-based, question-based? If we want to be particularly nasty, I could say you have 60 seconds per question, or do they have all the time in the world? Let's give these guys an hour. So I'm going to choose test-based, meaning you have 1 hour to complete the entire assessment. Works in seconds, so I know that 1 hour is 3,600 seconds. Done. Score management, what is the pass mark? We can see the available points we've got here. We've got 100 points. I want the pass mark for this. I want you to get 100%. I'm not taking rubbish. Do you want that to be expressed in the reports as points or percentage? I'm happy with points because it's 100, so if it's 100, it'll essentially be the same. Great. So we've basically set up our course, our learning objects. What we now need to do is we need to do the final setup. So here are all my learning objects. I've got my e-learning course, I've got my employee handbook and my assessment. Let's say we want to set up a prerequisite, meaning I want this content to be consumed in a specific order, which is great if you're doing things like micro-learning, for example, where you cut your content into little 5-minute chunks of information, but you want them consumed in a specific order. What we would do is we would add prerequisites. So in this example, let's say I don't want you to even be able to attempt this assessment unless you've completed the e-learning course and you've downloaded the handbook. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to properties next to the assessment, and I'm simply going to, on the prerequisites tab, I'm going to select what the prerequisites are. So you have to finish the e-learning course and you have to finish download the employee handbook. While I'm here, I'm going to select my properties. Now I'm going to set the assessment as the end object marker. What the end object marker does is, I'm just going to say yes. What the end object marker does, it means that when you've completed this learning object, that's when it tells the LMS that you've completed this entire course. So on successfully passing this assessment, it's going to tell the LMS this person has finished the course, and we now know the date to the second when the course was finished, and we can go ahead and release a certificate. Additionally, since this assessment is the final score for the course, I'm just going to mark this as final, meaning it is the final score that will appear in the assessment. Now we can create two assessments in this course, a pre and post, and what we would do then with the pre-assessment is we'd bookmark that as begin and the post assessment as final. So when we generate a report, we'll be able to see, for example, that the learner did the pre-assessment and got 20%. They finished all of the e-learning courses and downloaded all of the material that you've given them. And the final assessment, they then got 100. Fantastic, we can see ROI. So I'm going to click submit. And our course is ready to go. We've got all of our learning objects, all of our configurations, we're ready to go. While I'm here, let's just talk about some of the other functionalities. Within the facilitator area, we have a gradebook. Here is where you can, if you had essay type questions, we would be able to log in and view those questions and assign scores to them manually. But we can also pull some really cool stats here as well. So for example, we could open up our assessment, and if we had, say, 100 users who have completed this course, we would be able to see overall stats of where our learners are struggling. So if I click here, we'll have a look at all of the questions inside of this assessment, and we will be able to see the percentage of learners who have currently passed it. Now, let's say that we had 100 users complete this, and we had percentages of 0. That's a big worry. That means that this section of the content, that means that every learner that has completed this course has failed these two questions on submission. We need to go and look at that section of the content of the course, or perhaps we've worded the question a little bit vaguely and we need to have a look at that. So this is important stats to see exactly where people are struggling specifically for your assessment. We also have a newsletter area here as well, where you can send communications to learners on this particular course, and it works off a WYSIWYG interface. Out of the box, we can send via email. However, if you have an existing SMS gateway, we can integrate with that. Just know that obviously there's additional costs in terms of SMS bundles and so on. We can send newsletters either to the entire group, or we can cherry pick individuals. So if we specifically see that someone is running a little bit late on their course, or they haven't handed in an activity, for example, we can send a newsletter directly to those learners saying, hello, can we assist you? Right now, our course is set up. We're ready to now register our learners. So we're going to do this back in the admin area. The first thing I want to do is I want to register all people who are currently in my sales department. So I'm going to go to my course. Here's my sales induction here, and I'm going to choose the little icon with the people, because we're adding people to the course. It'll show me who's currently on the course. It's just little old me as the administrator. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click the add button. And we have a couple of different choices here. I can either search for individuals. It shows me everyone in the system. I've got search and advanced search options here, where I can search via any field that I want, first name or last name, and email address. A department will show up everybody in a specific department if I've got those fields, so on and so forth. What I want to do is I'm looking specifically for a department. Okay, so here's my sales and marketing department. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say yes, and that's going to pull everybody who's in my sales and marketing department through, and I want them all to be registered as students. So I'm going to click subscribe. All right, excellent. So you can have a look and see all of my users. They're currently subscribed to the course, and they're all going to get an email now saying, hey, welcome, say for example, Jack here. Welcome, Jack. You've been registered on the sales induction. What I want to happen now is I want to set up an enrollment rule. So everyone who's currently in my sales and marketing department are on the course already, but what I want to happen is that every time a new person joins the team, I want them to automatically be registered to this course. I don't want to have to maintain that on my own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to enrollment rules, and I'm going to set an enrollment rule here. Let's create a new one. So we're going to say add. I'm going to call this a sales induction rule. And I'm going to relate this to my organization chart because I want it for a specific organization chart, which is my sales and marketing department. Excellent. So I've got a name there. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to link it to a section of my org chart, which we assist you with when we set up the learner management system. So all of this will all be already be in place. So let's have a look here. Sales and marketing. I'm going to say yes. I don't have any subcategories here, so I don't need to select descendants. If I had sales and marketing and I therefore split those up then into sales and marketing, I could say yes, including descendants, meaning everybody underneath the sales and marketing. But this is a simple org structure. It's literally just departments. So I'm just going to say yes. And that's it. Now, every time someone is loaded into the organization chart, which is the sales and marketing department, then I'm going to select the course that I want them to be registered on. So I'm going to select my category, which is onboarding, my sales induction course. Save changes. Then I'm just going to tick that. I'm going to say apply the rule and save changes. And that's it. So my sales induction rule is now in place. Whenever a new person gets brought in to the sales and marketing department, and there's multiple ways which we could do that. If we have our sales and marketing department, if we either manually add a new user, they will automatically be registered on the course. If we do a bulk import via CSV, they'll automatically be registered to the course. Or if we've integrated with a third-party system such as an HR payroll system, the moment a person joins your organization, they'll be put onto payroll, automatically fed through onto Phoenix LMS, placed in the correct department, and be registered on the course. Fantastic. So our course is all done and set up. The last thing I want to do is I want to set up a custom report. Now, with the system, we have the ability to create reports on the fly. We can save reports that we've created so that we can come and view the most recent version of it, and we can also automate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a usage report for this particular course, and I'm going to automate it to email me every single Monday morning. So I'm going to head over to reports. You can see I've got a lot. This is a demo system, so I've got a lot of ready-made reports. We're going to create a new one. I'm going to give it a name. Call this sales induction. Which users would you like this report to be relevant to? Well, I'm going to say everybody in my sales and marketing department. And then it's going to say, okay, what course would you like this this report to be relevant to? So I'm going to select a manual selection of courses. I'll choose my onboarding category, select my sales induction course. What user fields would you like to appear in the report? When we set up every Phoenix, we set up all of your required user fields. So in this particular one, we've got a department and a job title. You may have many, many more. So I want the first name, the last name, I want the department and the job title. That should do it. Next up, it's going to say, okay, what information about the course do you want? Well, I want to know the date that they were registered on the course, the first time they accessed, when they completed, their current status, whether they are in progress, whether they're registered but they haven't started yet, or whether they've completed it. What the final score is, we don't have a pre-assessment, so we don't need to worry about the start score. We just want the final score, the number of sessions, and the total amount of time that they have logged in. Now, I don't want to have to tick this every single time, so what I can do is say save and show, which will save this as a standard report, and it'll show me the report. Obviously nobody's interacted with it, so we shouldn't see much data here. We can see that all of my learners are registered, but they haven't accessed yet. Great. So if I go back to my report list, and I scroll down to the bottom, we can see my new sales induction report is sitting here. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to automate it. So I'm going to schedule this report to email me. You could set it to email the sales manager as well, so that you don't have to worry about generating reports. And I'm going to call this sales induction, and I want it to be every Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I'm going to search for myself. There we go. That's the person who's going to receive the email. Done. Wonderful. So The sales induction, the most recent version of this report, is going to be emailed every single Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning. It'll be sitting in my inbox ready and waiting. And that gives me more time for tea. So there you have it. That's how we typically set up a course. We've automated the enrollments for all future candidates, and we've also automated the reporting for that course. I now have time to sit back and have a cup of tea. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to log out of the system, and we're going to quickly log in as an employee or as a learner to have a look at what their experience is going to be. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to log in as a learner. And let's have a look and see what the learner's experience is going to be. Alright, here we can see that I've got two courses, one that I'm currently busy with. This is one of the off-the-shelf courses. We can look at the icon here that shows that it is currently in progress. And I've also got a new course that has been that a facilitator has put me on, and that is indicated with the new icon. I can toggle between the two. So we have our new courses there. Or I can select all open. As I start completing courses and finishing them, I'll get a new tab for completion as well. If I have a look at the course catalog in the top right hand here, I can browse through all of the courses on the system, and these are our off-the-shelf courses that come pre-loaded onto Phoenix. And let's say, for example, I've got a presentation with a client next week Friday, and I'm particularly nervous about it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look for a public speaking course, and I can register for the course. We can either subscribe. These courses are all free. When you set up your course, you can decide whether it's free, meaning a learner can register straight away and access it immediately, or whether an administrator needs to approve it, or if you want to integrate, we can integrate with PayPal and you can sell them the course. However, our onboarding course, you cannot register yourself. The only time you'll get that course is if an administrator has placed you on the course, whether manually or via an enrollment rule. If I go back to my courses, let's open up the course interface for the sales induction. Alright, so here we can see I've got my e-learning, my live learning, I've got a coffee shop, and I've got a report card. I can see here that I've got an e-learning course, I've got a document to download, and I've got an assessment. And that assessment is currently locked, so I can't access it straight away. So let's open up our e-learning course. Alright, good. That was just a quick example course, so let's close that up. Let's say we've now completed that course. We'll now see that I've got a little green tick that indicates that I've now completed this e-learning course. Now when you build your e-learning course, you'll decide what the rules are for that, whether it's viewing every single slide, watching every single video in their entirety, or passing a little assessment that you've built into the course. So I've got my completion status there. Being a SCORM file, what this will do is it'll bookmark. So let's say I had not finished this course, I was halfway through the course. I don't have to finish it in a single sitting, I can close it up. I'll have a little orange tick that'll indicate that I am in progress with this learning object, but I haven't completed it yet. The next time I open it up, it'll take me to the last page visited, and I can continue with my learning. I've got an employee handbook here, which is just a download. It downloads the PDF, that's all that's required. Okay, I have two green ticks here indicating that they are completed, and you'll notice that the assessment is unlocked. I can now complete my assessment. Right, we can see the rules here. I've got two questions, pass marks 100, the maximum score is 100, so I can't make any mistakes here. I am allowed to edit my answers. I have 3 attempts. I've got 1 hour to complete. Alright, we can see the timer is going off, so my hour's on the way. True. A and C. Excellent, passed 100%. Great, so we can see I've got all of my green ticks, and we can see in terms of the LMS I'm 100% completed with my learning objects. If I go to my live learning, I can have a look at all of the available dates here. You can see we don't have the ability to create a room. All I can do is see which room have the date, how long is it going to be, and I can enter that room on that particular date. I can head over to the coffee shop and I can have a look at the existing discussions. If there are none, I can create one myself. There we go. Our first discussion in the forum is there. Everyone else can now introduce themselves. And I've got a report card here specifically for my assessment, so I can see there was a final assessment. The score was 100 out of 100. I needed 100 to pass it, and I did pass it at 9:15 on this date. It was an automatic assessment, so there's no comments from my facilitator. Excellent. You'll now also look here that I've got a little bell here indicating that a certificate has been released. So I can generate and I can download my certificate. Fantastic. So here we have my name, the name of the course, and the date that was completed. As mentioned, we would digitize your certificate template for you when we set up the learner management system. So obviously this would have your branding, so on and so forth. Other functionalities here, we can edit our profile. We can upload a profile picture, which will appear then in the forum for our discussions. And I can also view all certificates that I have received throughout my entire career. And when I'm done with my session, I can log out. And there you have it, Phoenix LMS in a nutshell, specifically with regards to setting up and rolling out an e-learning or blended course. As you can see, it's quite easy to set up, and going forward, everything is now automated, giving me time to focus on other L&D needs. There's a lot more functionality in this system, and I'm sure you have a lot of questions. So if you'd like to take this further, please complete the form below and contact us to set up a one-on-one session. Thanks for joining me today. Until next time, bye-bye.